If there's one gaming company that is currently not having the greatest time right now, it is definitely Xbox. Earlier this week it was reported that 9,000 employees have been laid off at Microsoft. Now unfortunately this is just kind of the time we live in. Layoffs are extremely common these days in the tech industry and to be honest worldwide. This is definitely still a bit of that COVID push, that hiring push that we saw through COVID. And now it's kind of hitting a lot of tech companies back in the face where they realized that they've been hiring just so many people. There's been a massive overhiring at a lot of companies, and especially with a lot of the publicly traded companies. They're now starting to see that the expenses of having so many employees at any given time is just immense. And since every quarter a publicly traded company is incentivized to increase their margins every single quarter, the only viable response apparently for a lot of management has been layoffs. And the latest victim of this have been plenty of studios under the Xbox umbrella. Now this is unfortunately hardly a surprise, as the Xbox branch of Microsoft has been struggling for quite a while. As you can see, Xbox hardware is dead, says founding team member. It looks like Xbox has no desire or literally can't ship hardware anymore. Yeah, it's obviously no surprise that the Xbox Series consoles have been a massive flop. That is probably an understatement. But they've just been not selling, which is definitely due to many factors. It's partially still the flop of the Xbox One that is kind of having an effect on Xbox as a brand. But it's definitely mainly just the absolute lack of quality exclusive titles. Pretty much every single thing that Xbox is putting out these days is available on PC as well, which is a good thing, but it makes the Xbox consoles way less desirable to buy, especially after recently, where they raised the price of all Xbox Series consoles, especially with Xbox games in the future now being $80. It's just not really an attractive console, and I don't know why you would buy an Xbox Series console in the current gaming climate, especially where everything is getting more expensive, when almost everyone has a PC at home that can now also play most of Xbox exclusive titles, which also in of itself have just been less and less in quality and have been more and more disappointing. This includes the latest Halo, the latest Gears of War, the latest Forza as well, which we'll get to in a bit. So there's just been no incentive to get an Xbox Series console. If you want to buy a modern gaming console, the only one that really makes sense is the PlayStation 5. But getting back to the layoffs, unfortunately, Turn 10 has also been hit by the layoffs. This was reported by Jason Schreier. Many of Xbox's subsidiaries are getting hit by the layoffs this morning, including Call of Duty studios such as Raven. Big cuts at Forza Motorsport developer Turn 10. Nearly 50% of staff. 50%. So apparently there has been around 140 employees at Turn 10. I don't have a source for this. It's just kind of the number that I kept reading over and over in comments. Great source, I know. So given that 50% have been laid off, that means there's only currently 70% still at Turn 10 at the moment, roughly speaking, which isn't a lot for a game of that size. However, it is worth noting that it doesn't seem like Turn 10 was working on any new games at this time. Their current game, Forza Motorsport, has been pretty much in maintenance mode. So is 70 people enough for that? I don't know. I'm not sure. It really depends where they kind of wanted to take the game and in which direction they wanted to take it. It did seem like they wanted to add more larger tracks to the game. I actually think the latest update that Forza Motorsport had with finally bringing back Fujimi Kaido was a huge thing. It was something that people have been requesting ever since Forza Motorsport 5, pretty much. It is pretty much the single most beloved track in the entire franchise, so for them to bring this back was actually a fantastic thing. But I don't think we're gonna see updates like this again with pretty much half the workforce cut in half. It really seems like they are now trying to basically put the game into maintenance mode and only really have minor content updates, stuff like fixes, that sort of thing. However, that is assuming that Forza Motorsport is still going to be updated and supported, because now there have been additional claims that Forza Motorsport is no more, claims former Turn 10 employee following Microsoft cuts. So this is something that I think a lot of YouTubers that I watched talk about this topic got wrong. It is currently not confirmed that Forza Motorsport is cancelled. and that Turn 10 is going to be dissolved and just going to be integrated as a support studio for other studios. So the source who claimed that Forza Motorsport is getting cancelled was a former employee at Turn 10 who hasn't been at the company since 2016. Now, I'm not sure how credible that makes him as a source. I imagine he probably still has friends or former employees who still work at Turn 10. Then again, we have also learned that Turn 10 basically, or rather Xbox and Microsoft basically cycle through developers at Turn 10 and probably other studios roughly every 18 months so that they don't have to pay benefits on the employees like paternal leave and that sort of stuff. So I'm not sure if this would make for a credible source at that point. The matter of fact is that neither Xbox nor Turn 10 have outright confirmed this yet, that Forza Motorsport is not going to get supported anymore in the future. So at this point, it would make more sense to just wait out and see if there's any official press confirmations or if this is just a hoax, pretty much. Now you might wonder, what is Xbox going to do at this point with so many employees missing? I mean, 9,000 employees missing at Microsoft. I think roughly 6,000 of those are at Xbox. That's a huge amount of people. How are you gonna make up for that? Now, we've seen some projects get cancelled, like the Project Dark remake, for example, just outright got cancelled, along with a bunch of other projects that were still in development, probably didn't get announced yet. This is coming from Xbox's executive producer, who suggested affected workers can just use AI to reduce the emotional and cognitive load that comes with job loss. You can see the official message here from his LinkedIn. I know these types of tools engender strong feelings in people, but I'd be remiss in not trying to offer the best advice I can under the circumstance. I've been experimenting with ways to use LLM AI models like ChatGPT or Copilot to help reduce the emotional and cognitive load that comes with loss. Sure, why offer any kind of like alternatives on other positions you could put the developers into? Just use AI. If you feel bad about getting let off, just use AI. I mean, like, therapy? What's therapy? Just use AI. This is real. This is the actual executive producer saying this. This is a real statement. But what if using AI to cope with job loss, especially those of your colleagues who you might have actually befriended, what if that's not enough? Obviously, you still have less employees at the actual studios. How are you going to make up for that? Well, it seems like Microsoft apparently has placed around 6,000 H-1B requests, which is basically a work visa, if you will, which roughly matches the amount of people they have laid off. And this came pretty much right around the time when these layoffs happened and basically hit the news. The report claims that the company has filed a total of 14,000 foreign labor requests this year, 82% of which are being offered pay below the local market rate. I think this paints a very obvious picture of what is going on. Xbox is basically, and by extension also Turn 10, is seeing a lot of layoffs because they want to basically replace the current workforce with cheaper labor. People that maybe come from India or whatever, that they don't have to pay as much. That is basically what they're doing. It's a pretty sad time to be an Xbox fan, and honestly at this point I don't know how you could still be an Xbox fan. Occasionally I still see comments defending Xbox and blah blah blah. At this point I have to be convinced that this is just either bots or people that are just getting outright paid to write positive comments about Xbox, because there's really nothing to defend anymore. Like, I don't think you could have handled this this situation any less, especially in a time where it feels like executives, especially at like Microsoft, are getting paid more and getting more and more bonuses. This is clearly just done to make their bottom line look better at the end of a quarter in front of shareholders. And the actual victims of all of this are the ground floor developers who just want to do good work, who just want to, work on video games that they enjoyed as a kid, and this is how they get treated. You're getting replaced by cheaper labor who is probably way less experienced than you and way less qualified to the job, and if you don't like that, well then cope, I guess. Go use AI, talk to ChatGPT. That's their solution for you. So when does this leave Forza though? This is obviously kind of the main interest of the discussion in this video. I honestly don't know. I think we still should wait for an official announcement from either Turn 10 or Xbox or Microsoft or anyone to confirm that they permanently want to disassemble Turn 10 as a studio and want to just kind of like integrate the remains of it into other studios or, you know, as support or whatever. For now, I would just kind of be a little careful if one former employee who hasn't been working at the company for 10 years is saying something like this. But if this is true, I think this would really suck. Now, I've been one of Forza Motorsport's biggest haters, I feel like. But even I would not want to see the team behind it and also the project itself get cancelled. Because despite everything, I think if they stuck with it for a few more years, I think they really could have turned Forza Motorsport around. I think the latest update with Fujimi Kaido was already a massive step in the right direction. I think this is exactly the kind of stuff that the game needs. And I think the one thing that they didn't really add properly that I think the game really needed was more single-player content. The main career mode was still really dry, and I also think the game still required an online connection to still access the career mode content. I think that is where I think the majority of the focus should have been over the last few years. So, I don't know, I feel kind of mixed about it. It obviously sucks if people lose their job, and I have nothing but sympathy for everyone who got laid off. But at the same time, I also think it was too little, too late. I mean, the game has come out like 2 years ago, I think, at this point, or almost 2 years ago. And I feel like not enough has changed in that time span. Forza Motorsport in general has really struggled with getting an audience. The last major release that really popped off was Forza Motorsport 4, and that was way back in 2011. That is 14 years ago. And I think Forza Motorsport 5 and 6 and 7 also were kind of not doing so well, mainly because of the Xbox One's kind of failure and low sales. Now with 7 and the latest Forza Motorsport, they started to put these games on PC, where I think as a result they definitely performed a little bit better. But I think overall they were always kind of behind Gran Turismo in almost every aspect, which really sucks. I think with Gran Turismo 7 really being a letdown for a lot of people, it was really the chance for Turn 10 to come in, swoop in all of the players that got disappointed by really delivering a solid single-player experience with loads of content. And I think they just really dropped the ball and are still dropping the ball to this day. It is just not a solid alternative for people who did not like for people who did not like Gran Turismo 7. And I think that the focus was just completely off. Wheel support, for example, was also not great. A lot of people that primarily played sim racing games were also kind of looking towards Forza Motorsport as a more chill alternative when they don't want to play their hardcore sims as much anymore. And it just woefully underdelivered. Like, Forza Motorsport on a wheel kinda sucked for the longest time, especially on release. And people were just not happy with the wheel support, with the force feedback and how the cars felt. It was just not really on the level where it should have been. In fact, you could maybe even argue that Forza Horizon felt better on a wheel. It even got like dedicated press conferences and presentations ahead of the game's release where they talked in detail about the wheel support on Forza Horizon 5 before it came out. And it was a big improvement over Forza Horizon 4. So I think between everything, it was kind of hard for Forza Motorsport to find an audience. It kind of wasn't a great introduction into sim racing because the wheel support wasn't there and also the single player portion wasn't really there. But also for hardcore competitive people, it wasn't good enough of a sim to really warrant spending a lot of money and time into it. So ultimately, I just think it was a game for no one. Like, they failed to capture the attention of casuals who want to play something a little bit more serious because the game just didn't have any fun alternatives, fun game modes. There was nothing to do in the career mode. There's still, to this day, no race car events in the base career mode, in the Builders Cup, which is ridiculous. And also for the hardcore people, it just wasn't solid enough of an experience. Like, the force feedback and everything was just too much of a letdown that people just didn't want to bother switching to it. So I honestly don't know where things are supposed to go from here. Like, I think at this point, the best thing they can do is just, with the small team that they still have, try to push out as much content as they can that is actually worth playing, like more single-player events. I think new tracks are probably off the table with a team this small. So I would actually just recommend them to use the content that is currently in the game and try to do the most with it. I think that is really the best thing to do in this situation. But yeah. this sucks. The current state of Xbox is just miserable to witness at this point. And I don't know how things go from here. I'll probably make a video dedicated on the next Forza Horizon game, because I also have some thoughts on that. Because I'm genuinely concerned with where Forza Horizon is going to go from here. Because the thing is, Playground Games, who worked on Forza Horizon, they always kind of relied on Turn 10 to some degree to build the groundwork for a lot of things, for like physics, for car models. Like there was a lot of trading around assets between these two studios. And now that Turn 10 is no more, Playground Games is kind of on their own. And on top of that, they also have to work on the next Fable game. So I'm not sure how this is going to work out for Playground. I'm not sure. It feels like they have like a massive... they just lost a massive support pillar, basically. But that's something for another video. For now, I hope the best for the Forza Motorsport series. It's a franchise that I still really hold close to my heart, even if I did not like the latest release. It's a franchise that I would have liked to see thrive. Currently it seems like it's rather dying. So let's hope for the best. I hope that there's going to be some major announcement from Turn 10 or whatever on the future of Forza Motorsport, and I hope it's going to be a little bit more hopeful and positive. But as it stands, I'm not sure if that is currently in the cards. We'll see. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, thanks for listening, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next one. Take care.